Okay, and welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time, Field Glory Empires, in the Rise of Persia, Lucy, in our Sparta run, where, due to secondary and tertiary component people fighting the Persians, our peace deals have been being broken before they actually come into effect. So we're going to attempt to negotiate a deal with the Persians again. And we're going to see if we can get this one to actually pass. So we're proposing peace. Obviously, the main component of my peace deal that we're going to start off with is everything we occupy, we are not giving back to them. And they're on board with that. They're at the point where it's like, yeah, if you occupy it, you can keep it. That's how badly they want out. Oh, and I'm at the point where I can take the old capital of Medea as well in that presumption. Okay. We're gonna take the coastline away from them. And then we want to complete the provinces. So we take that one because that's a province, part of the province. We already have some of that, so we'll take the rest of that province. I'm not going to bother taking the Nabatean ones off because we don't control any Nabatean. I technically control one of that one. I might actually put that one back. We'll let them have that bit of desert. Yeah, we'll let them have that bit of desert. I want the rest of the delta down here. I think that's what actually broke it last time is this one. Arcadia here got taken by Saba, which might happen again. That might be what breaks it again. We'll see. Complete that province. We fully occupied that one already. Suppose we could ask for the rest of Medea. Oh, actually, no, that's probably, that's pushing it, I think. Especially because I want... No, we'll take the coastline. Well, actually, we'll give them, where's this in the list here? 23? Yeah, give me that one back. Six. Yeah. I'm actually gonna let them have Medea. I'll let them keep Medea. In exchange, I'm gonna go ahead and take their coastline over here. No, that's still occupied by us. I want that one, that one, that one, and that one. That's Persia, give that one back to us. Okay, I still have 63%, 63 war score. Maybe I will go ahead and just ask for me as well. Yeah, okay. Or actually, let's put Medea back on the table, or back off the table. This is a bit of an ask. Nah, they're not willing to go negative 37. Okay, we'll take Medea then. 100% chance of peace, assuming it doesn't get invalidated. So we need to fight 3 turns without any significant losses, and then we'll give us everything we asked for. Okay, this army, once again, you're going to take steps towards the west. You're probably not going to make it because there's one last hoplite in there to do the maneuver with. You're going to storm that fort. You're going to storm that fort. You're doing the move to engage the Persian army here. That's laying siege, and then we're going to try to march over to Urk. We'll see how well that goes. Over in the west, we do have a new army forming up to replace the previously destroyed one. It will begin its march westward. And I assume we should probably go ahead and start forming up a fourth army to replace the last, well, basically the destroyed one. As much as I have a hoplite retreating westward, the new army should probably be made out of phalanxes. So if we're going that route, we're going to want... And the phalanx is probably going to be about 10 wide, so we're going to do... full 10 of these. Yeah, I'm not going to bother the grabbing provincial from the far east. It's a little far. Oh, the phalanxes are expensive if we're already up into 2 turns here. Can I get medium cav from someplace else? Yes. Grab some medium cav from there. This is where we're going to grab our light cav from. And then we're going to need some archers. Where's our cheapest archers? You're 60, so it's probably you, after the losses we took recently. Yeah. Yeah. So that means we're going to recruit up. Yeah, let's just recruit 10 of these. Here we go. And that'll be the army to replace the one we've basically lost. We'll see if that hoplite even manages to break out to the west. Or if it gets ridden down by what remains of the Persian host. Okay, let's go around to our provinces and build, select the buildings for the turn. Apparently you've got a lot of building slots here. 4 building slots. Nice. Copper. There are ways to bring in gold and silver, so that will get better. Or do I want culture? No, we're gonna go for the money. And then I suppose you can put the watchtower. Yeah, we had a couple things finished. I think you guys more food in the area. We're off of farming. Do we have... We don't yet, so build the physician house. We're in range for the basilica here? Yeah. That's a +6 loyalty. Not quite enough for what we're looking for. But the basilica does have upgrades, if memory serves. Whereas the Great Sanctuary, the... Great Sanctuary is the national wonder. Okay. So there's only one Great Sanctuary. That'll be fine. Still 6 loyalty, which is a good step in the right direction. Oh, I could definitely go ahead and build, just delete some of these 5s. If we're really desperate for a space. Not too desperate yet. We're not going to worry about it. Okay, stuff building, stuff building. 3 slots here. That's a pretty strong craft district. We're gonna pass on building it though. For the reason it's gonna make certain things harder to find, like the bank and the coin maker, the copperworks and the commercial port and stuff. By dumping a bunch of crafting buildings in the queue, or in the roll chance. We'll take the tavern though. Spinning mill, flax. Imports flax. Makes cloth. Nearby buildings would benefit from cloth. Maybe not the best one. The best one probably would have been cotton, but we can make do. Racing track. Would be more loyalty, would be more money. Let's go with the one that doesn't have the decadence, which is the flax, the spinning mill flax. Grab the noble district. Do I grab the noble district? Can we put enough to stabilize? Yes, we could. Oh, no, we can't. We're too short. Or, well, it depends on the event. There's unrest goes away, we'd be fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna just hope that it stabilizes a bit. We're gonna go to the hospital instead, so we can go fishing for that temple of the health temple. Produces wax, imports honey. Wouldn't be a problem to do that. The tribunal's the tribunal, and I like the tribunal, so we'll do the tribunal. You need a little bit more food. City guard. No, we're gonna pass on that. We want to access the tier 2 health buildings. We're gonna have to build a 5. Thinking about doing a reroll anyways. We'll just take that 5. It's not the best of buildings, but it's not the worst of buildings. School? Yeah, inside the school, the siege works. There we go. Another legacy. And then we can tear the hospital now. Because we won't need the hospital anymore. Okay, we focus a little bit more on construction now that the place is starting to calm down a bit. Okay, we're not desperate for the money and allow these buildings to finish quicker. So we take them off of money and put them on to build. Okay, we got the school down in turn. The amphitheater is going to take 4, but that's fine. You grow in 3. Next turn, I break the hospital. Or break the physician house that's left over from the hospital. Which will take 3 turns to the process. School. If I move 2 to the stabilize you, yes. Hold site. Gladiator school, and you might be enough that we could stabilize you. Yep, stabilize you even if we don't have you working or don't have the gladiator school yet. It's good. Let's move in the right direction. And that's a good sign for once the peace treaty is concluded, if we've got stuff stable before the peace treaty and gives us the last 10% loyalty. Monument. Lots of stuff to build there, lots of stuff to build there, but due to all the ongoing struggle, things will go at the speed they go. 5 to build there, although it's probably not going to proceed very quickly until peace be declared. Candle swap, which imports wax, makes us some money, makes us some metal. Oh, we got something that specifically needs the wash house, so that's going to make it tempting to build the wash house. At least until it gets cleared, and then I can delete it later. Okay. We're on to working on the loose. Or loose. I'll look at the gambling ring for the loyalty. Or loose. Add the preceptor house. Or loose. Work on the school. Well, if you ever get any production work in school, and that's all the loose ones. Put a 2 on the defense here, and we'll do the Art of the Siege. It probably won't buy us any time on the siege, but that's fine. And then you're ordered to assault, so you should be done next turn anyway. Okay, let's cycle that turn. Yeah, it doesn't help that they assault the fortress anyway. And the garrison's only got a +1 defense bonus. So completely exhausted. Yep, this is not going to go well for the defenders. We gave them what bonuses we could, and it was not enough to save them. Though our assaults are all going pretty well, so... And apparently it's mutual for everyone. They're unable to not have their forts not assaulted. We're in the stable tier. Where is Persia? Persia's still stable. They're getting pretty close to the bottom of their stable tier. Egypt's proposing a deal. What do you want, Egypt? They want manpower. No, they want to give me manpower for some troops. We'll give them some troops. We'll give them some Pontic archers. Marine. Again, they want some Pontic archers. We can send those out. Spend metal or money, or spend metal to acquire metal or money or manpower. Like our metal. Okay, so we're still throwing to the west. Actually, I suppose adding that hoplite to this group coming east is making sense. So we'll add those up and we'll go and push them down this way if the fight's still going on at that point. So those guys there. Actually, I suppose we should push these guys to where they're rallying, which is over here. Instead... I think so, yeah. And Cav by themselves, you can see Cav by itself can just go where it pleases. In our land. The nice glorious roads just allows us to ride our Cav wherever we want them. But our Cav isn't very good in straight up fights, so I gotta play second fiddle to the very slow hoplites. Okay, so the armies are given their order. Oh, We got one army that hasn't been given orders. Do something like that. If everything goes according to plan, the deal should still be good to go. So, should on turn cycle not have any fighting. Instead, we should have territories changing hands. Position house. Work towards that health building. The Odon. We on. This particular one is much larger than any other. I'm actually surprised we haven't built that yet, but yeah, that's being offered, we're going to take it. Build up the walls to massive walls. And then we need a little bit more food. This is the best place to have food generated in the province, so we'll do the food there. Seven building slots here. It's big enough that if I want the Greek unique culture temple building add-on, I need to build the cult site. So we'll build the cult site. Technically, I don't need it from a conversion standpoint, but we want it for other reasons. I'm going to build an Odeon here, which is half one legacy. That's good. Those are proceeding. Probably move you to production. That's probably not. Oh, actually, I'm going to load the gladiator turn. Gladiator school in one turn from 2. Hospital should be done in 1. It might change after I put something in the queue here. I'm going to grab the sawmill. And yeah, okay, the hospital's taking 2. And we can't stabilize this. We're kind of hoping we get lucky and the unrest goes away. It could go away any turn. It could get worse any turn. We're just gambling. But if that clears, we'll be positive. In fact, we will take some guys off of culture production. Don't need the circus here, though 40 more loyalty wouldn't hurt. We'll go the mill because we get a loyalty bonus off the mill as well. And I'm not that desperate for the money. Amphitheater because we can import the silk. Upgrade the farm. We could use some stability or some loyalty for stabilizing the place. 40 loyalty would not be amiss. Tempted to still do the farm, but hopefully the farm comes up again. The farm upgrade comes up again. Thassalan Temple. Yeah, this is one of the good places for Thassalan Temple. Place where we can get coral that's coastal, where we don't need to convert anyone. We don't need the districts. Don't think we need another toolmaker in the area. So I think this is a reroll. Regional roads, no questions. Still building from last time. Food into money. We're gonna pass. I'm gonna work on building towards the Temple of Health. Same here. Plus, Salt House and Smokehouse are both just good buildings. Okay, Macedonia here. We are going to go ahead and disassemble the Vision House. Which will, once that's done in 3 turns, will give us another building slot. In 2 turns, we'll get another person here, which will give us another building slot. Maybe we're making enough food here. I probably don't need anyone working food. Move everything over to... Not quite everyone over to infrastructure production. Okay. And we go on, check the loose, no idle loose. No boastful colonies. So let's cycle the turn, and we shall see if... And they did accept it. You can already see the early indications of the acceptance, which is the major border markings moving. There be peace in our time. It might not last for very long, but there be peace. Okay, the territorial transfer caused us to drop 9 levels on the culture to decadence ratio change. What did it do to Persia? It made them drop 6. They're now got 4 aging tokens as decadent empire, and they're in the declining tier. That's gotta hurt. If they decline again, they won't be an empire anymore. That's how bad it's going for them. They're still at war with Persia. We'll see if they're still hanging around in a bit. They're presumably still at war with Persia. Citizens of both nations rejoice as Persia and Sparta have ended hostilities. Yes, the war is over. May the peace at least last as long as the treaty does. Develop infrastructure. Yeah, we'll pay money for more infrastructure. Defeat. Through cunning and martial prowess. Why has this popped up? Huh. I didn't know when the end of this scenario was. Assume it would end 217. Interesting. Okay, well it doesn't, much like it doesn't make you end after you surrender, or if you win, it doesn't make you end, I think it's presumably after you lose as well. Yeah, odd that it ended on 217. I don't know when the normal end date of the scenario is. It did just pop the low loss stream, so I assume technically I lost. Anyhow, we lost because we're in second, right? If you're legacy-wise, if this is actually the end date, then that's the end date and we lost. I wonder. Okay, so I'm gonna put in a save here. So, Sparta stream save. Because in a way, feed. Okay, is there a way for me to exit out to the main menu quickly? Yeah. So we're gonna always load that save up. I could even potentially pop back to the last say one of the autosaves. We're gonna pop in the scenarios. This was this one, 330 BC. Okay, so the scenario is only supposed to be like 220 turns long. Huh. Okay. Let's load our defeat. So if it's only supposed to be 220 turns long, what I could do is I could re-roll back to where we pieced out. I thought the scenario wasn't going to end, but let's be fair. So I was playing assuming the scenario had like 500 turns. I think it's 500 turns I was thinking of. Yeah, so we're 4 turns past the end date apparently. So apparently the game ends. Well, the game won't flash up victory or defeat if you're at war with the winner. That's what I'm guessing. Okay, so if that's the case, let's we're gonna back out. We're gonna load one of the autosaves, is what we're gonna do. Because if that's the case, if we just needed to have more legacy when we won that war, then we can do that. Right, I can pop back 2 turns. Right, so I think that's... Yeah, we'll load this scenario. Load this save. Because if all I need is the legacy, we could have negotiated for the legacy and they'd accept it. So yeah, we'll see if we can win that way. So, we are at war with Persia, presumably. We have a peace deal. We're going to cancel that proposal. And we are going to negotiate a different proposal. Peace. I want your legacy. Okay. So, because we're not taking anything now, I don't really care much. We know the game's going to end as soon as we cycle 2 turns. Or I may have misjudged the autosave and it's going to end this turn, but I think it ends as soon as we peace out. That's basically what happens here. Anyway, technically this is not optimal play, but I think it doesn't matter at this point. So yeah, they accept the peace deal, so we give them back all their territory, which is fine if we're taking all that legacy off of them, the game immediately ends. And of course, giving all the territory back puts us in the way up in the culture decadence ranking. Of course. Sign a peace treaty. And yes, okay. So we're past the end date, so we just needed the legacy. So instead of taking their stuff, I should have taken the legacy. By rolling back to the autosave and realizing that's what I needed to do, we win. Okay, so we didn't win early, so this is actually where the scenario is supposed to end at 230. Yeah, so we're in like 4 turns of overturn, but that's fine. Because we were at war with them. So yep, that's a victory. We had to be defeated before we could win, but we won. We won the game. So, I suppose there's a little bit of after action report here. Spartans. Really, really, really good. In particular, that effectiveness. Really underestimated for this run. I've underestimated the effectiveness of effectiveness. Let's put it that way. For didn't necessarily recognize that affected a minimum roll on the dice, and that you could, at least as the Spartans, reliably stack that high enough to make a significant difference. It is still a very hard start because you don't have very many hoplites. Hoplites are expensive, so you just can't build them, and you start off with a divided territory, right? So getting that start is a little tricky. I wouldn't necessarily want to do that in a multiplayer game, but if you can get that start going, the hoplites are great. And yeah, we were able to fight the Persian horde. The Persians had so many troops. And yeah, even at the end, okay, we were probably farther behind in decadence than I really wanted. Right, we just took 6,000 off of them, so they had, let's say, 17,000. We had like 15. You know, they had 16, 17,000. We had like 15, 16,000. They were about 1,000 ahead of us. But you can see, yeah, the Greek culture buildings do provide you a lot of culture if you're playing them right. What was our baseline health at the end? Okay, that's this will give us an idea, right? So, Soul House provides 8, Quant provides 9, so that's 17 base. We have 55 here, so you subtract off 10, so that's 45. Subtract off 7 is 38. So we're getting 38 global health. And most of that, okay, we get a little bit from the medical school, that's global 5. And we have, that's maybe a different question, did it finish? I'm not sure if the hospital finished yet. I think it finished. The question is, where was it? Yeah, presumably finished because it's not in the queue where I can see it. But yeah, the global hospital is probably running like 5 as well. But these, the rare medical temple of the Hellenic world, which apparently wasn't very rare for us because we were building quite a few, provides 1 legacy and 3 faction-wide health, so that was providing us lots of growth. Stoas are pretty powerful. Let me find a Stoa. These might not look very powerful on the surface. Okay, we somehow stacked these up to 79. I think this is because this is a commerce building, so this counts as commerce. So this is being multiplied by the commerce modifier as well. Or we just have national modifiers, and they're 80% more. So initially these don't look as good, but that faction-wide 5% commerce, that stacks real nice. So if we come into the trade details, we only had 5 of the frankincense roots going, but those 5 roots were worth 90 commerce, 90 money alone, and that's because of the 125% commerce bonus we had. It's not giving me a breakdown where it's all coming from, but I feel like Stoa is making a pretty big bit. In fact, we can see the Stoa modifier in national traits. Modifiers? Modifiers. Can find it. Empire Wealth. So that's the Stoas. It provides the Empire Wealth modifier. I have 12 of them here. So that's 60% faction-wide commerce. So that's 40 plus 60%. 24 commerce just off of the frankincense from little Stoas. In here we have our papyrus maker, or the papyrus source. That's a little bit less valuable. That's still making 59 off of 5 roots. We have more papyrus, so that might be coming from someone else as well. This one over here isn't even exporting to us. It's exporting to Rome, because Rome has no papyrus. They're buying our papyrus. Making us 86 money, right? So that's the Stoas. The Stoas are powerful. Granted, you can do the Stoas on any of the Greek ones. You can do the Echosophilion on any of the Greek ones, right? That's not just a Sparta unique, that's a Greek thing. We have the Odeons, half a point of legacy, some decadence reduction. Again, any Greek can build these. They're still really good. They were playing out really well. Propylaea, again, another Greek special. Any Greek can build them, not just the Spartans. Really strong, providing a decent amount of culture. We have some multipliers here that are raising the number, so it's maybe not an accurate representation of how strong they are culture-wise, but also half a point of legacy. So what? This is a half a point. This is a half a point. So there's a full point. There's a point. So there's 3 points. And there's 2 points. But let me do the math right. Half plus a 1 is a 2. Right, so the Greeks can pretty reliably get 3 points of legacy per territory if they build their buildings right. Before accounting for culture, I don't think we got big enough anywhere where we got 4 from a territory, but we were getting a lot of our places. We were getting the 3. Before applying other wonders like the Palace Library and stuff that provide more legacy, you can get pretty strong. Anyway, I think we went over, that's like 4 of the Greek unique buildings. Don't think I have any boathouses. Any of the Greeks out west? Well, I think I can keep boathouses, but the Spartans can't build them. It looks like the Greeks out west didn't survive. Oh, Sicily's Greek. Did you build any of the boathouses? Not that I can see. The AI doesn't necessarily place anything unique on their cultural buildings, so the Greek ones might just not roll them. Here's another. I clicked on it. Oh, there it is. Here's another one of the Greek specials. We did use these a couple times. A unique and uncommon replacement for the worship place. They do disappear at 16 pop, which is why we don't have very many of them left. But these are pretty strong. Don't have any conversion rate though, so if you were looking for conversion, they're not really good for that. No, it probably didn't survive when we lost it. Yep. Vassalin temples are just nice ones. Trying to think of any of the other. The Thessalos. This is another, again, Greek unique, or Greek culture one. Any of the Greeks can build it. In theory, it has a little bit more culture on it than the generic temple, with a slight taxation penalty. So you do need to get the bonuses to work, otherwise it's a little weaker. I think the normal temple is a little bit stronger if you've got the bonuses working, because you don't have the taxation penalty. But yeah, so this was a good run. Not realizing that we were so close to the end date, I was playing for like, we got 500 turns, so there were some mistakes made near the end that didn't need to happen if I'd realized that we were basically at the end date and I just needed to win the war versus Persia. But yeah, so we both lost and won. Lost because I didn't understand when the end date was, but that was a war that if we played the peace deal right, we could have just won. So we did that. Went back to the autosave and won. Didn't play the last couple turns, obviously, optimally. Legacy generation. Getting the standard 27 from government. I believe technically the legacy you get from government is modified by your government's age. So we were doing things every once in a while to specifically lower our government age, which is why we're getting 27 while Persia's getting 30 here. That just means our government's younger than Persia's. Wonders. We were getting, at the end, 63 from... Well, we were getting 63 with our stuff. And you can see a lot of the Greek unique buildings that provide legacy technically put them in the wonder category. Even though they're not wonders, you can build multiple of them. But yeah, we're getting 63 from 55 legacy producing buildings. And that's what? So the 55 is being multiplied by the 35%. So obviously 1.35 times 55 is not 63, so some of them are halves. Obviously that's how that math worked out. But we're getting a decent amount from legacy. We had from legacy producing buildings, we had the most. That's very much being Greek. Objectives, we were in first. We were controlling more of our objectives. Persia, we were talking about that. Originally, and this is why I pieced out the way I did originally, with that first peace deal where we were technically lost, not realizing we were at the end of the game already. The whole point of that was to bring our legacy production up from culture to be higher than Persia. So in that first one, when we took all that territory, we probably were leading in this category after the peace deal. In this one, because I realized, oh, I just need the legacy to win. I think I just need the legacy to win the game. We did a legacy transfer of 6,000. I could have probably swung it a little bit in between, where I picked some intermediate where I'm like, okay, I just need some legacy to have more than them, and then take some of the territory. Like, probably should have taken the Mesopotamian region anyway. Just for the lulz, it would have been semi-thematic. But yeah, that could have given us more legacy production. We had 8 regions that were above 1,000 or above the 15,000 mark. We were getting 3 legacy points each from them. We had 17 above the 5,000, and I think most of our regions were above the 1,000. How many regions do we have in the end? Is faction gonna tell me? Yeah, we had 64 regions in the end. So if we're looking at that from a culture standpoint, 64... Yeah, so... What, that's... 6 regions. 6 regions that we owned were below 1,000 culture. So we were making a lot of culture. At least a very diverse amount of culture. And then obviously on that last turn we took 6,000 legacy points out of Sparta, or out of Persia to win. So that's where the decision 6,000 is coming from. And then Parkus decadence ratio obviously popped up on the last turn here. Because we handed back all of Persia's territories, so most of the stuff that was causing us to decline, have a high decadence ratio, got handed back. Because our stuff was higher culture on average than the Persians. And then in the one where we defeated them and took territory, not realizing that we just needed legacy to win the game, I think the Persians were just on the basically the purposes of breaking again. So we almost got them to the point where they were going to undergo another civil war. Which is a bit of a shame we weren't able to do that. But yeah, for a while we were also struggling a lot with manpower. That is kind of Sparta's stick gimmick, is they have incredibly powerful troops. Or at least line troops. But two of our national modifiers combined to be really punishing on the manpower. We have Hellenic tradition, so all the Hellenic tradition nations have a 25% manpower malus. They get a culture bonus and a commerce bonus, and that kind of balances out. Usually have too much manpower anyway, so usually you're not looking for more manpower, so let's having 25% less. That's not that bad. Especially if you're getting something for it. It says, in addition, all of the Hellenic nations get 9 extra buildings. That's, I say, technically true. All of them get 9 extra buildings. Sparta is the exception, where they get 8 of those 9, and then Sparta gets a Spartan building. The rest of the Greeks get the boathouse. Sparta gets, and we can bring it up in the capital. Gets this building. So this is the Spartan special. Only the Spartans, to my knowledge, get this building, and I believe the Spartans only get this building in this scenario. They don't get it in the base grand campaign scenario. I may be wrong about it being in the base, not being in the base campaign scenario. But I believe they only get this one in the DLC. Whereas the Greeks otherwise get the 9 special buildings. Which includes the boathouse, which I say boathouse. That's what the building is. I think it might have a special Greek name, which is like boathouse in Greek, but otherwise we get the same 8 buildings that the other people do, which is this building. I don't have the capital, so I'll have to poke around to find them. This building, that building, this building, the Stoa. That's 4 of them. There's the cult site one for 5. I'm trying to think if we actually had all of them in this game. There's this one for 6. Get what the last 2 were. Yeah, I forget what the last 2 were. Last 2 probably weren't as impressive as the ones I was building, because I was mainly focusing on the really good ones. So yeah, this was a very fun run. There was bits of times where it was basically very stressful due to how oppressive the Persian army was, and the fact that like, oh yeah, we're gonna go deal with the Persians, and then the Romans be Roman, Romans be Roman. In fact, I was expecting what we were kind of doing with Rome, where it's like, oh, it's this harsh thing with Rome, to be what we were going to have to deal with Macedonia. Macedonia, when we actually finally fought Macedonia, it was just a pushover. Poor Macedonia. But yeah, so I didn't know the scenario was only 215 turns or so long, so I was assuming that we had more time. But yeah, we did. We both won and lost the scenario, so that's sort of the report. Yeah, I suppose if I didn't get so tied up in going into Rome, right? So if I hadn't made friends with these guys, specifically these guys, then I wouldn't have been lured to go deal with Rome, and then I probably would have fought the Persians earlier, and that's probably what we needed to do if we wanted to beat the Persians without stealing thousands of legacy off of them. Granted, we were able to steal thousands of legacy off of them, so that was fine. So yeah, not an early victory. We didn't trigger the sudden death rules, because the sudden death rules, we were eligible because we were past the 100 turns, but sudden death rules are triple culture, right? And even after stealing the culture off of them, we're only double. Right, so we won. We definitely won. We were definitely in a state where even when we technically had the defeat screen thrown up, if I had known, well, if it had been as long as I thought it was, if the game actually on this scenario goes out to 500 turns, then we would have won at 500 turns, right? We just weren't quite ready there with that peace deal to win. We of course won when we reset the peace deal to give us legacy. Yeah, the Greeks are very powerful. Spartan hoplites in particular, hoplites and phalanxes are particularly powerful. Definitely, because I mainly built my stacks for moving around in the hills. So we were definitely struggling in the open territory of the Mesopotamian region. Which is one reason why when the 2 stacks came in up here, we were able to basically sweep Armenia. Is we weren't having the same problems on Romania that we were having down here in the open terrain, where most of my stacks, in particular my cav, Spartan cav, I would say that Spartan Cav is weak, but it isn't weak. It's just regular Cav is the problem. And regular Cav, it was not strong enough to match the oppressiveness that we could get with the Spartan hoplites. So they were definitely suffering attritional losses, and that was the issue there. So I just wasn't bringing long enough Cav or good enough Cav to keep the flanks up. Yeah, it's substantially better than regular hoplites, especially when attacking. Wouldn't necessarily say that. Well, I haven't looked at what the effectiveness was on the Athenian hoplites, because the Athenian hoplites are standard Greek hoplites. I don't think they necessarily have better base rolls. I think it's just there's higher effectiveness, and the higher effectiveness translates to higher min rolls. Right, so the base modifier before the roll is not much better, but I think it's the same. Right, so I think that's something that sort of caught me off guard a couple times when I'm evaluating units. Is a lot of the units, especially the high-end units, once you take a terrain penalties out of the picture, will sort of have the same sort of base values, but I wasn't accounting for the fact that effectiveness is min roll. And yeah, and the Spartans have the unstoppable level of effectiveness, so if you can protect their effectiveness, especially by giving them good archer support. Right, so one of the big weaknesses I sort of experienced with Sparta is that your initial skirmishes are these poor fools, which have 4 range attack. Like, if these guys weren't cheap, and they're so cheap, you can see they have no manpower upkeep. They just cost manpower to recruit, and a little bit of money. These guys weren't so cheap. These would be terrible units. And in many ways, they are terrible units. That's why I swapped very heavily over to using archers. Because most of the time, our archers were providing enough range attack that we were just able to suppress the enemy. Or at least suppress them suppressing us, right? So if we suppressed them from suppressing us, we kept our full 4 effectiveness. And effectiveness plus veterancy was basically resulting in we were getting minimum 7 rolls. And that makes a big difference, apparently, when you're going into fight with what would otherwise be even odds. Right? Oh yeah, you're fighting another heavy infantry, so they got 6 attack, and you got 6 attack. But you got 6 attack and a min roll 7, and you've got, because you backed yourself up with archers, the archers exhaust them, so they're getting like min rolls 2. Something that makes such a difference. Such a difference. But that's also why we were having issues out in the open, is our Cav is okay. It's average Cav. It's just effectiveness 2. And so the Cav don't hold up. The Cav don't hold up like the Spartans. The elephants, yeah, they got 7 attack. They're not bad elephants. Right? They're the average elephants. They got effectiveness 2. Again, they don't hold up. They don't hold up in the situations where the spotlights are the hoplites are holding up. So you take attrition on your flankers. And then if you run out of flanking troops, the archers get exposed, and then they clip the archers off. And then if you lose too many archers, then you lose the support bonus from the archers. Their skirmishers will start driving the effectiveness of the hoplites down, and then you start losing hoplites. But if you could avoid that happening, and most of the time, at least in the hills and the mountains, we were able to achieve that, we could slowly, glacially attrit mountainous stacks of Persians down. One thing I think the AI doesn't do a particularly great job of is the AI is, when it's making decisions on whether to attack you, I think it uses the comet power of the stack pretty heavily, and it's not correcting for frontage. So for a while, we were facing stacks up here that were 150 guys. It's the hills. You don't have that much frontage. You have 20 frontage. If you're running more than 20 guys, like, there's a reason to run more than 20 guys, which is, oh, if you lose a guy, then you've got a replacement. Which we definitely need to do with a calf, right? We were frequently when we were up in this terrain, we've got frontage of not the forest, frontage of 8, right? So you need like 16 guys to be optimal for fighting in it. But if you run 16 guys and you're taking the casualties, you don't have any replacements, right? We were running extras, so we had replacements. And because we were running extras, so we had replacements, we basically, other than maybe losing the occasional cav that we could replace, we weren't taking any losses in the hills. But when they bring 150 in, it's like, okay, that, at least in the hills, that's like 4 stacks. Like, that's 4 armies. And it doesn't work very well as 1 army when you've got 4. It would have been a little bit better for the AI to split them up. But that's the AI in this game. That's something that wouldn't work against the humans. Right? The humans would split up. And if I were trying to fight this war, and that was a human playing Persia versus me, almost certainly against a human if I let them get that out of control, by the time we were actually at war with Persia proper, I don't think I would have been able to win, because the human... Yeah, we'd win a defeat in detail here, a defeat in detail there. But I had 2 armies during that second war with Persia. The Persians had enough armies to have 4 to 5, probably even 6 stacks. Right. Okay, I kill 2 stacks. They take 4 territories. Like, there's some argument of like, okay, well they have to hoard them together so they can attrit your force, or can stall your forces. But if they'd arrived early enough, then I'm getting stuck like here. Okay, we occupy like 2 or 3 territories, and they just tar pit us there because they can. Right, they tar pit us here, and they circle in around and take the back stuff. A human player probably could have attrited me down and broken me, as Persia. But another thing is, so this is the Persian equivalent to our Spartan hoplites, which is the Immortals. 6 attack, same thing as our hoplites. Effectiveness 3, so they're not unstoppable. From a mineral standpoint, they've got the mineral 3. Granted, as okay, these guys aren't elite, but the elites get +4, so you can still get them up to the unstoppable, the max roll of 7 for the mineral. They have the base 6 attack. They're clumsy in the same terrain. They don't like forest. They don't like swamps. They don't like mountains. They've got city defender, so good luck trying to dig these out of cities, right? If a human player decided and was smart enough to fortify a city with these, the assault style I was doing wouldn't work. Sorry about that. Had a scratchy throat there. So they could have definitely dug in. And really, the human player could have really dug in with the Immortals. And the mechanic that was allowing the AI to support such large armies, let's see if we can find a provincial capital to show. There we go. Is the Straffi mechanic, which is they get 2 free units at the national level per province. That adds up, and it's okay. And I think technically there's actually a cap on how free it makes a free unit. I don't think it actually makes the Immortals free, but it makes the Immortals cheap, right? So yeah, they can get away with having a lot of Immortals as Persia, a real human player. The AI probably wasn't really taking advantage of the factional strength very much. They weren't building as many Immortals as I would. They've got the same quality cav we do as Sparta. Okay, technically that access to the provincial ones. In particular, those Kazakh horse archers. Defense of 5. Ow. Range attack 9, yeah. Okay. So they, because of what territory they had better access to the cavalry than I did. But they're still overbuilding cavalry. Like, other than maybe the Kazakh horse archers here, you don't need that much cavalry. Right? The horse archers are good. Yeah, the horse archers are good. Get more horse archers. But a lot of times they were overbuilding cavalry. Because the cavalry isn't really... Okay, the Iranian armored cavalry here are pretty nice. I think this is proper heavy cavalry. We didn't have access to proper heavy cavalry. So they could have probably made a proper cav stack, right? Get the horse archers in the back, get the Iranian armored cavalry up front. They roll up, they got mineral 7. That's going to handle most of medium infantry, right? But instead the AI is running these sort of like mid-light cavalry stack extras that would eventually be what they get traded down to. And I don't know where they're getting these close infantry from. I think these close infantry come from the emergency levy. Because this is not the Persians' heavy infantry. The Persians' heavy infantry is, or the factional Persian heavy infantry is the immortal. If I can find them again. Yeah, the immortals. So this is the Persians' faction heavy infantry. I may still do a run where I play as the Persians, see how easily I can. Well, I don't think the AI is going to have such success with Sparta or Athens, so I should be able to do basically what the AI did, to be fair. Yeah, I believe this is the Persian faction's heavy infantry. This is their medium infantry. Standard medium infantry. Right. Not particularly impressive, not particularly unimpressive. The Immortals are actually somewhat impressive. They've got 5 hits. It's really hard to kill them accidentally. Frequently when we got into battles with the Immortals as our Spartan hoplites, we would beat them in battle and they'd actually survive the battle because of those 5 hits. They wouldn't necessarily win because they've only got effectiveness 3, and thus we were getting minerals of 7, and we had, because I was focusing on properly supporting my hoplites, we were generally applying effectiveness damage to them. So we were frequently winning that exchange. But yeah, they didn't have as many immortals as I would recommend them picking up. I'd recommend picking up more immortals. Though be careful where you put them. They don't want to be in the mountains. They don't want to be in the forest. They don't want to be in the swamp. Though there is quite a bit of mountain up here. And maybe that's why they didn't have very many immortals, because the AI doesn't really track the terrain very well, so maybe they just lost them all in the mountains or something. I don't know where they got these close fighters. I think these are coming from emergency levies. Because these are generic heavy infantry. These are not factional heavy infantry, which means they shouldn't have been able to recruit them. They should have been forced to recruit the immortals. So these have to be coming from events, I think. Coming from decisions. And yeah, arguably these are better than these. So, if you're training them, you'd want to train these. Iranian heavy cavalry, that's just decent heavy cav, and that's actually something they have that the Spartans don't have. They have heavy cav. They got regular cav. We got regular cav. I think they have access to proper light cav that we don't. We had to use provincial light cav if we wanted light cav. This is Iranian skirmishers. They're not particularly impressive. I think they get Eastern... Yeah, they get Eastern archers as well. Which... these are more like slingers in stats than the provincial archers. So if you still got access to the provincial archers, you probably want to use the provincial archers like we did. That's one of the ways we were kind of punching back at the Iranians, because the Iranians were using these Eastern archers, which are better than, say, the skirmishers. Right, so... That doesn't look like a big difference when you look at them. Oh, it's skirmisher with range attack 5 versus skirmisher with range attack 6. That breakpoint there is +1 support bonus. So that's like the difference between 6 attack and 5 attack. Right, for supporting the guy in front. And that stacks. So Eastern Archer supporting an Immortal is the difference between a close fighter and an Immortal again, on top of the Immortal. So that's... if you're probably playing these guys, you probably run a lot of Archers and a lot of Immortals, a lot more than the AI was running. And yeah, I think the AI is getting close to fight. To be fair, we were mauling them, so they were getting lots of opportunities to pull the emergency levy. So if they're pulling the emergency levy, that's where the close fighters are coming from, I think. It may even be where the Iranian skirmishers are coming from, because I don't remember being able to recruit those. The couple times I've played. Mercenary hoplites. If you have a mercenary post, you can recruit mercenary hoplites. Sparta can only do that once they're Empire tier, but and Sparta can't build the mercenary post as well. It's one of Sparta's drawbacks. And then they actually got up into the steppes, so we're getting horse archers. Those horse archers are pretty scary. Range attack 9 is scary. That's 3 support bonus. Not by itself a lot of attack. So you gotta use them to back up something. Whether you use that to back up cavalry or back up line infantry, like, oh, these would have been absolutely scary if the AI was smart enough to build a proper army where they go like, oh yeah, mortals up front, full battle line of mortals, couple of heavy infantry do the flank, or heavy cav do the flanks, backline of Cossack horse archers. Oh, that would have hurt. That would have hurt. There's not a lot of terrain we would have been able to beat that in. Yeah, that probably would have been enough support bonus to make up for the fact that they don't have the effectiveness difference on the Immortals. But yeah, so not that the Persians are a bad civ or that the Spartans are OP. Spartans have a hard start, and they get rewarded for that with a really strong base line unit. And then we get into modifiers. I brought up the Hellenic Attrition, so they've got the 25% manpower penalty. And then you have the Spartan Special. 10% or 10 bonus XP on unit creation. Okay. That's nice. You like that. Contrary to the norm, when a population grows, it also can be created as a slave. Is a bit meh. You don't really want that. It's not really a buff. And then you've got that manpower penalty of 50%. So that's the civilization knockback for you getting Spartan hoplites is you get this malice. And this manpower bonus stacks additively with this manpower one. So you get a fourth of the normal manpower of everyone else. Right. Normally, if you've got like normal manpower, you never need to care about manpower because you're usually not attriting your forces that badly. Now at a fourth, oof. Like it's hard to raise armies unless you start stacking manpower sources. Other nations can kind of just accept that they're gonna have enough manpower. This makes it really hard. We did work that out in the end. We were getting 112 more than we needed to support our armies. We were probably getting around about the point I should have actually raised another army. Which if we did that, then it would be a little bit closer run thing on the manpower pool. Yeah, and we were stacking a lot of modifiers. So there's the advanced medical knowledge from one of the health buildings. Fishing command structure. Hippocratic Oath. So that's the health temple. That's the Greek health temple. We had 11 of those, so we're getting 33 faction-wide health bonus from that. It's faction-wide loyalty, which is nice. Faction-wide culture and conversion. So that's from taking over the Tower of Babel. I think in the normal campaign you can repair the Tower of Babel because it starts broken. In this scenario, that's one of the reasons to come over here to Mesopotamia is it's repaired in this scenario. It hasn't been broken yet. Okay, we in theory just remove the low wariness from piecing out. And we were managing to achieve a decently high military expertise most of the time. I don't know what level high is. I think it goes up to very high. I don't think we were able to maintain very high very often. Because we were expanding rapidly enough to make that more of an issue. Oh, Glorious Nation provides some conversion rate. I didn't realize. I'm not really going to talk about the leader. This last leader, he was good for piecing out. Yeah, 38% global health, 80% global commerce, 65% global culture at the end. That global manpower hurts, but as you can see, there's ways to work with it, where you can still make enough manpower for a functional army. And we have some administrative burden reduction. Okay, so our net is 20%. Or no, is that a red one? So it's supposed to be showing it. Yeah. More decadence gain, more legacy gain. Oh, there's the explosive race here. So we had a ratio of 4.48. Yeah, so I believe the bonus caps out at 10, so we were 48% or 44, yeah, like 44% the max bonus. We were vaguely staying around by that point. I believe every nation has a free unit support of 10. Persia gets an extra 2 for every province, right? So that's one of the reasons Persia was able to maintain such a large army. And I believe free unit support is... It reduces the upkeep by a certain amount. I don't believe it actually makes it truly free. If you pick a particularly expensive unit, it doesn't come completely free. So the Immortals, for example, I don't believe are free under free unit support. But it does make them far cheaper, right? It's almost a free unit in the case of the really expensive free units. So that adds up, and of course Persia was getting a lot. I don't think it's an easy way for me to see how much Persia was getting. And you can see here, bonus 35% XP when you calculate. And that's the national modifier, so some of the local modifiers were getting more to that. So we were basically, in some scenarios, being like, yep, here's a free 50 XP unit. Or not a free, recruiting a 50 XP unit, so we were just basically recruiting, like, veterans out of the barracks. Combo with 35% experience on needed for level up. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we just recruit people out of the barracks for veteran. Yep. Literally, because these guys just came to the barracks, right? So, yeah. They come to the barracks for veteran. At least in the capital they do. Those guys are veteran, yeah. Guys down here. Yep. Veteran level. They're not elite. They don't come out max experience, but they're getting pretty close. When do they go up? Oh, it doesn't. I don't think it tells me. If you remember the breakpoints, you probably know how close that is. But yeah, so that's the run. That's the end of Sparta. It was an interesting game. I'll put a break between the runs. At least. I may do Persia next. Just to basically flip the coin and see how the coin is from the other side. Granted, I suspected Persia. Is Persia your enemy isn't Sparta, right? Sparta has Persia as an enemy. Persia doesn't really have Sparta as an enemy. When you're probably playing as the human versus the AI. Because Sparta's really not going to get out of Greece. Athens is probably not going to get out of Greece. Macedonia kind of got out of Greece, but they really didn't. If we get into Legacy, you can see the person I think is probably Persia's actual enemy when you're playing as Persia as the human player. And that's Egypt. If you're playing against the AI and you're Persia, your enemy is Egypt. Granted, Persia starts as like a 3-province major regional power down here, at war with Medina. I think historically the leader of Persia is like the nephew to the leader of Medina, and is actually like a rebelling governor historically. So as part of the rebellion, one of the mechanics is if you as Persia occupy the capital of Medina, basically the country defects to you, right? The country basically realizes the jig is up, we've lost the civil war, the country defects to you. So the rest of Medina will defect to you. And then they sort of have the Dodochi mechanics where provinces can defect to you if the other side is more decadent than you. I think it's Babylon in here. Babylon, Lycenia. I think it's Lycenia. It's the guy that owns this. King Crocus. Croesus, which I believe is the king of Lycenia. And then I think that mechanic also applies in Egypt, though Egypt is a little less likely to be decadent, so they're a little less likely to actually be losing territory. The only one that fully detects or defects when their capital is taken is Medina, but that can make Persia be a bit explosive. Like Persia basically gets up here, occupies that capital, all immediate defects. They're now basically a regional superpower. If you play your cards right, you can probably then basically immediately declare war on Babylon, while you're fixing the internal economy of your country to support continuing to do that. You take over Babylon. You decide between Egypt and Lycina over here. You take them out. You take Egypt out. And if you've done all that, yeah, you have the whole Athens Sparta thing, but you're probably not going to lose to them. But yeah. So I'm tempted to probably do a Persia run. The Persia run will probably, as a side effect, be shorter than the Sparta one. Because Sparta one doesn't have a Persia Persia doesn't have a Persia to fight, if that makes sense, right? All your big fights are early game. If you can get through your early game before anyone else really becomes a problem, you got through your early game. You're gonna run with it. But yeah, the big enemy is Egypt, at least from a legacy standpoint. Egypt doesn't have a lot of legacy gain. I believe in this scenario, Egypt starts with 7,500 legacy. So they start with a lot of legacy. To keep them from instantly winning by just hitting end turn 100 times or something like that. Athens and Sparta, I believe, start with 2,501. Which is just over a third what Egypt has. So Egypt can't just win by sitting on its laurels. It does need to make some legacy. But as you can see here, I'm pretty sure this Egypt was pulling emergency levies. This is why it's still around. And to be fair, I think Persia wasn't pulling as much, but I think Persia was pulling some as well. And we definitely experienced Rome doing that. Rome definitely pulled that a couple times, where it's like, yeah, you're scary enough. They can. I was scary enough they could just pull emergency levies. But yeah, those are all the big players in this scenario. A lot of what's going to make or break whether you win in this scenario is in this area of the world, which actually makes it a little bit weird that if you want to play like Carthage or Rome in this scenario, you gotta go east, and you gotta go east fast, because otherwise the situation's gonna get a hand. You're not gonna be able to fix it. So this is maybe not a good scenario to be playing Rome or Carthage, because you're gonna lose, unless you're okay with losing, or you're far better at this game than I am. But yeah, unless to stop rambling too much, I think that's basically the after action report for this run. Other than not recognizing where the end of game was and thus picking the wrong options for that final peace deal. We did lose and we did win. It was just how you change that auto-resolve result. Because we were in a situation where the peace deal that we signed where we lost was the same value as the peace deal that we signed where we won, so... if I knew the terms of the victory, I would have won. So I'm gonna consider that I won. And obviously we were at the point where if the end game was going to be 500 turns or something like that, we could have still won from the losing position, right? That was the whole point of fighting the war that way. Yeah, without going on too much rambling, I hope you have all enjoyed if you've been following along. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously this will be the last part of this run. I'm going to take a break and play a different game for however long that game takes, and then probably when the next open spot comes up, I'll probably play Persia unless I've changed my mind. If you're watching on Twitch, I don't know what the next game is going to be up in 4 days, because we just won this one. I haven't decided what we're going to replace it with yet. I just decided we are going to replace it with something. We're not going to immediately go back to playing Field of Glory Empires. Tomorrow will be the continuation of the XCOM run. The day after that, I'm going to start up a run in Old World, which is sort of this time period, but it's civilizationist style. It's a hex-based, turn-based game. That's what I'm going to play on effectively Sunday night. And we're actually going to have a fairly long stream of that because we're going to run a 5-parter. Though I might try to keep that 30 to 40 minutes apart instead of an hour. I've been running the Field of Glory Empire stuff at an hour long. Monday will be Terra Invicta. We'll be back to Terra Invicta. And then hopefully by Tuesday I'll have decided what's going to replace this as the next game in the recording cycle. So that's the upcoming schedule if you're watching on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, I am recorded far enough ahead that this should be occurring after all that has been played. So if you're interested in watching any of that stuff, you can probably hop over to Twitch. And those VODs from those streams should probably already have been up. I stream my recordings live to Twitch under the username WillCole, while recording them locally to upload to YouTube under the username WillCole100. Yeah, so if you're watching them watching this on YouTube, you can hop over to Twitch to watch any of that stuff if you find it interesting. All of those have been, except for Old World, because we're starting it on Sunday and starting it in 2 days. We'll probably have previous parts that are already uploaded to YouTube, so if you're watching these on YouTube, you can go find the playlists for those. I do put all the series in their own playlist. And there should be a playlist for this in the description if you want to go watch any of the earlier parts in this run. If you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, and you want to see any of the earlier parts in this run, hop over to YouTube, you type in like Field of Glory Empires, Sparta, in the search for the playlists. You should find the playlist to play the whole series. And if you're watching Twitch, obviously this stream won't be up for you on Twitch yet, unless you're watching it 4 days from now? 6 days from now. 6 days from now, the whole thing will be up. If you're watching this on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, obviously 6 days from now is... Well, no. If you're watching this on YouTube, now for me is 6 days in your past, right? So that's how I managed to get everything uploaded. So I have one thing that goes up every day, running on a 4-day cycle, right? So basically I record 4 parts every day. I got a 2-day buffer to make sure everything gets uploaded after I compress and stuff. So yeah. That's the upcoming schedule. I've probably already let this bit go on rambling a bit too long. So I wish you all the best of luck and a good time until the next stream and or part you watch. This is obviously where this run ends, and bye for now.